My fiancée laughed while her friends mocked my dead mom so. I canceled everything and made her regret every word publicly. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I thought I'd found the one person who finally understood what loss feels like. When my mom died 5 years ago from cancer, it shattered me in a way words can't describe. She wasn't just my mother, she was my anchor, my reason to stay grounded when everything else in life felt unstable. For months after she passed, even the smallest things, the smell of her favorite tea, the sound of her old voice messages, could make my chest tighten until I couldn't breathe. Most people didn't know how to handle that kind of grief. But when I met Emma, she didn't flinch when I talked about it. She just listened. We met at a friend's dinner party, and she was the first person who didn't change the subject when I mentioned my mom. She said softly, "I think it's beautiful that you still talk about her. That's how love stays alive." That one line hit me harder than I expected. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Over time, we grew close. Our conversations stretched into the early hours, the kind that felt safe, effortless. I told her about the nights I'd sit in my mom's old room just to feel close to her. She didn't judge me for it. She held my hand and whispered, "Your mom must have been amazing to raise someone like you." It was those moments that made me believe she understood me. I thought I'd found someone gentle enough to handle the parts of me still bleeding. The kind of person who wouldn't just tolerate my grief, but honor it. I remember thinking, maybe this is what healing looks like. Finding someone who doesn't run from your pain, but holds it with you. I didn't know then that the same woman who once comforted me about my mother's death would one day laugh about it in front of a room full of people. The first year with Emma felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. She had this calm energy that drew me in, the kind of warmth that made you forget the world could ever be cruel. I remember how she'd trace her fingers across my arm and say, "You don't have to carry everything alone anymore." Those words stayed with me. For the first time since my mom's passing, I allowed myself to believe I could build something new, something that didn't hurt. We spent quiet weekends together, cooking simple meals, watching old movies, and talking about everything. I'd tell her about my mom's laughter, how she'd hum while folding laundry, and Emma would smile like she could see it. "She sounds like the kind of mom everyone wishes they had," she'd say. I'd nod, a lump forming in my throat. It felt like Emma wasn't just loving me, she was loving the memory of my mom, too. I didn't realize how much I needed that. When I finally proposed to her, it wasn't dramatic. No cameras, no crowds. Just us at home, with a candle burning and her favorite song playing in the background. I told her, "You make me feel like I can stop pretending I'm okay all the time." She said yes before I could even finish the sentence, tears in her eyes. We hugged for what felt like forever, and she whispered, "Your mom would be proud." That line broke me in the best way. I believed her. I believed every word, every touch, every soft promise she made. I thought I'd finally found peace, but peace, I've learned, can be the most dangerous illusion. Because sometimes love doesn't end in shouting or betrayal. It begins quietly, with someone who seems safe, until one day you realize safety was just another lie waiting to fall apart. The shift was so gradual, I almost didn't notice it at first. After we got engaged, Emma started talking more about the wedding. The colors, the venue, the flowers, things that didn't matter much to me, but clearly meant the world to her. I figured it was normal. Every bride wants her day to be perfect. But somewhere between picking out table settings and arguing over guest lists, the woman who once told me, "You don't have to carry everything alone," started to disappear. It began with small jabs, disguised as jokes. When I mentioned that my mom would have loved to see the wedding, she rolled her eyes and said, "You know, babe, not everything has to be about your mom." It stung not because it was loud or cruel, but because it was so casual. The kind of remark that makes you second-guess whether you're overreacting. I laughed it off that day, but something inside me tightened. Then came the new group of friends, people she met through work. They were the kind of crowd that lived for Instagram likes and aesthetic brunches. They teased each other constantly, always pushing boundaries in the name of humor. Emma started acting different around them, louder, flashier, sharper. When I tried to join their conversations, they'd exchange glances, smirking. Emma would giggle and say, "He's still learning how to have fun." At first, I convinced myself it was harmless. Everyone changes a little when they're around friends, right? But soon, it wasn't just a little. She'd start canceling our quiet nights to go out drinking with them. When I said I missed how things used to be, she sighed, "Don't be so clingy. We're getting married, not fused at the hip." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing something was slipping. The softness, the empathy, the quiet understanding that once defined us. I told myself it was just wedding stress, but deep down, I could feel it. The woman I loved was starting to become someone I didn't recognize. It happened on a Friday. One of those evenings that start out warm and harmless. Emma had invited her friends over for dinner, calling it a little pre-wedding get-together. I wasn't thrilled, but I wanted to make an effort. I spent the whole afternoon cleaning the apartment and cooking her favorite pasta dish. When her friends arrived, the air instantly shifted laughter that was just a bit too loud. Jokes that carried the sharp edge of cruelty disguised as charm. At first, it was manageable. They talked about wedding planning, trends, and their exes. But after a few glasses of wine, the tone changed. One of her friends, a girl named Tessa, smirked and said, "So, are you putting your mom's picture on the altar too?" The table erupted in laughter. For a second, I thought I misheard. My chest went tight. I looked at Emma, waiting for her to shut it down, to defend me, to say anything. But instead, she laughed, not awkwardly, not nervously. She laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd heard all night. "She's right," Emma said between giggles. "He practically worships his mom. It's kind of adorable, and a little creepy." It felt like someone had poured boiling water into my veins. The room blurred as their laughter echoed around me, bouncing off the walls. My throat closed, my hands trembling under the table. I couldn't find words, only the sound of Emma's laughter. Sharp and carefree, cutting through everything I thought we had. I stood up quietly, pushing my chair back. "Excuse me?" I muttered, barely hearing my own voice. The laughter died down, but no one followed me. I walked into the kitchen, staring blankly at the counter, trying to breathe through the weight in my chest. From the living room, I could still hear them joking, still laughing. The woman who once cried when I talked about my mom's death was now laughing at her memory. That sound, her laughter, burned into me, and in that moment, something inside me snapped. When her friends finally left, the apartment was quiet, except for the clinking of wine glasses in the sink and the pounding in my chest. I sat on the couch, staring at the floor, trying to process what had just happened. Emma walked in humming softly, like nothing was wrong, setting plates in the sink. I could still hear her laughter replaying in my head. Every time it looped, it cut deeper. "Emma," I said finally, my voice low. "What the hell was that?" She turned, confused. "What?" "You laughed," I said, standing now. "You laughed when they joked about my mom." Her expression hardened. "Oh my God, are we seriously doing this?" It was a joke. "You're being dramatic. A joke?" I repeated, barely holding my voice steady. "They mocked my dead mother, Emma, and you joined in." She crossed her arms. "You always make everything about her." I didn't mean anything by it, but honestly, you need to let it go. It's been 5 years. I just stared at her, the same woman who once told me it was beautiful that I talked about my mom. I could feel my pulse in my throat. "Do you hear yourself?" I whispered. "You said you understood." She groaned and rolled her eyes. "I do, but I can't keep walking on eggshells every time her name comes up. You ruin every happy moment with your sad stories." I think that was the first time I truly saw her. Not the woman I loved, but the one who'd been hiding underneath, waiting for a moment like this to reveal herself. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded quietly. That night, she went to bed without saying another word. I sat in the living room until sunrise, staring at the engagement ring on her nightstand. And for the first time since my mom's funeral, I felt completely alone again. The next morning, Emma acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed while scrolling through her phone, and asked if I wanted to go furniture shopping later, as if her words the night before hadn't gutted me. I could barely look at her. I mumbled something about needing air and stepped outside, pacing the driveway. My stomach twisted with confusion and disgust. I didn't know whether I was angrier at her or at myself for letting this go on for so long. When I came back in, she was in the shower, her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. I didn't mean to look, but the screen lit up, and one of the names caught my eye. Tessa, the same friend who'd joked about my mom. A preview of the message flashed on screen. Did he cry again? My hands went cold. Against every instinct, I opened the chat. What I saw made my chest hollow out. The group thread was filled with screenshots of my texts to Emma, the ones where I'd written about missing my mom on her death anniversary. The same woman who'd held me while I cried once was now forwarding my messages to her friends, captioning them with things like, "Someone get this man therapy," and "Our future husband's still a mama's boy." And then I saw it, Emma's own message, right at the top. "He's pathetic when he talks about her. You'd think she was a saint or something," followed by a line of laughing emojis. I just stood there, numb. The girl who once said she admired my bond with my mom was mocking it like it was some kind of weakness. I couldn't even process the betrayal. It felt too surreal. The water stopped running. I quickly put her phone down, heart hammering, as she stepped out of the bathroom and smiled at me, towel wrapped around her hair. I smiled back, just enough to hide the truth, because in that moment, I knew what I had to do. The wedding was off, but not quietly, for the first time since losing my mom. I felt a different kind of stillness, not grief, not pain, but cold, focused clarity. I didn't yell, I didn't confront her, I just went quiet. I started observing her, every smile, every fake apology, every word she thought I believed. When she asked if I was feeling better, I nodded and said, "Yeah, I just needed to cool off." That was all it took for her to drop her guard again. The next few days, I played along. We went to venue meetings, smiled for photos, even visited her parents. I held her hand in public, pretended everything was fine. But at night, while she slept, I sat in the living room, documenting everything, screenshots, messages, her group chat. Even voice memos where she'd badmouth me to her friends on speakerphone. I didn't know exactly what I was building yet, but I knew one thing: she wasn't walking away from this untouched. One night, I called the wedding planner and calmly told her to freeze all bookings under my name. "Family emergency," I said. Then I emailed the photographer, the florist, and the caterer. All the contracts were in my name. And I made sure none of them were refundable to her. Every click, every confirmation felt like taking back a piece of myself. I wasn't doing this out of spite, it was justice. The woman who mocked the dead deserved to face the living truth. She kept talking about our future, completely oblivious. "I can't wait to walk down the aisle," she said one evening, smiling at her reflection. I looked at her through the mirror and forced a smile. "I can't wait either," I said softly, but in my mind, I finished the sentence. To watch her whole act crumble in front of everyone. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be our big moment. The families meeting, the friends mingling, the final celebration before the happiest day of our lives. Emma looked radiant that night, all charm and confidence. She wore the same perfume she'd worn on our first date, a detail that used to make my heart ache with affection. Now, it just made my stomach twist. Every smile she flashed, every sweet babe she tossed my way, felt rehearsed, scripted. Fake. Her friends were there too, the same ones who had mocked my mom. They greeted me with smug grins, whispering to each other whenever I passed by. I could almost feel the laughter waiting on their tongues. I wanted to say something, to throw everything in their faces right then, but I didn't. I kept my mask on, the same way they had theirs. Dinner went smoothly, at least from the outside. Toasts were made, pictures were taken, and Emma played the perfect bride-to-be. She laughed loudly at every joke, clung to my arm like a prize she couldn't wait to show off. Her father raised his glass to a long and happy marriage, and everyone cheered. Everyone except me. I just sat there, calm, steady, watching the performance unfold. Then it happened. One of her friends, slightly drunk, leaned across the table and said, "Hey, don't get too emotional tomorrow, okay? We don't need tears over you-know-who ruining your makeup." The group snickered. Emma didn't defend me. She didn't even hesitate. She just smirked and said, "I'll try to keep him in check." Everyone laughed. And I smiled, too. Not because it was funny, but because I knew what was coming. Tomorrow wasn't going to be her dream wedding. It was going to be her reckoning. I raised my glass, met her eyes across the candlelight, and said quietly, "Tomorrow will be unforgettable." She smiled, completely unaware of just how right I was the morning of the wedding. It was quiet, eerily quiet. The sky was overcast, gray enough to make the air feel heavy. I got to the venue early, dressed in the suit she'd picked out, hand steady, mind clear. Every detail she had fussed over, the flowers, the playlist, the lights, was perfect. But so was my plan. Guests began arriving, all smiles and chatter, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to break. Emma floated through the room like a goddess, glowing in her gown, hugging relatives, soaking in every compliment. "He's going to lose it when he sees me," she whispered to her bridesmaid, grinning. And she was right. I was going to lose it. Just not the way she thought. Before the ceremony, I asked the event coordinator to play a short video I had prepared in memory of my mother. Emma loved the idea. She said it would add a sentimental touch. Everyone gathered near the screen, quieting as the soft piano music started. The first few seconds were beautiful pictures of my mom, clips of us together when I was a kid, smiling faces frozen in time. Emma placed her hand over her heart, pretending to be touched. Then the screen flickered. The next image wasn't of my mom, it was a screenshot. A group chat, her name at the top. Then another, and another, each message displayed for everyone to see. The jokes, the insults, the mockery. Laughter turned into gasps. The captions were brutal, undeniable. "He's pathetic when he talks about her. Can't wait to see him cry at the altar. Mama's boy needs therapy." Emma froze. "Turn it off," she screamed, rushing forward, her voice cracking. But it was too late. The damage was done. Her friends looked pale, her parents stunned into silence. The whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "I can't marry someone who laughs at the dead." And then I walked out, leaving her standing there, the perfect bride surrounded by her own ugliness. With everyone watching, I didn't look back as I walked out of the venue. But I could still hear the chaos unfolding behind me. Shouting, gasps, someone crying, probably her mother. My car was parked just beyond the gates, and by the time I reached it, my hands were trembling. I wasn't shaken from regret or fear, just from the weight of everything I'd been carrying finally slipping off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt free. My phone buzzed nonstop the moment I got in the car. Calls from her, texts from her father, then messages from mutual friends, some confused, others furious, a few quietly supportive. I didn't answer a single one. I just drove. No destination, no plan. Just the hum of the tires on the road and the faint sound of rain beginning to fall. Later that evening, I checked social media, and of course the video was everywhere. Guests had filmed the entire thing. From the sweet opening montage to the devastating reveal, comments were flooding in. "She deserved it. That poor guy. Instant karma." Emma had deleted her accounts within hours. The next day, she showed up at my apartment. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes bloodshot. "How could you do this to me?" she cried. "You humiliated me in front of everyone." I stared at her calm. "You humiliated yourself," I said quietly. "I just gave everyone the truth." She tried to argue, tried to spin it into something else, that I'd overreacted, that it wasn't as bad as it looked. But there was no saving face now. Every lie, every cruelty was public. Her parents wanted nothing to do with her. Her friends had scattered, and even her job put her on leave for image reasons. I thought seeing her fall apart would make me feel vindicated, but all I felt was empty. Like justice had come, but at a price I couldn't name. Still, one thing was certain. I'd never let anyone mock my mother's memory again. I thought the chaos would fade after a few days, but instead, it exploded. Someone who'd been at the wedding uploaded a clear, full version of the video, and it went viral overnight. Millions of views within 24 hours. The caption read, "He exposed his fiancée for mocking his dead mom." During their wedding, the internet did what it always does. It turned pain into wildfire. By the next morning, hashtags were trending. Hashtag wedding revenge, hashtag mocked the dead, hashtag mama would be proud. People dissected every frame, every reaction, the moment her face fell, the way I stood there silent. Comments poured in. "This is justice. Protect this man at all costs." That laugh at 037 tells you everything. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't even repost it. I just watched, detached, as the world took over what had once been my private heartbreak.ml. Meanwhile, became the internet's villain of the week. Screenshots of her group chats spread everywhere. Brands she worked with quietly cut ties. Her influencer friends unfollowed her. She posted an apology video, tears, shaky voice, the whole performance. But people weren't buying it. "You laughed at a dead woman," one comment said. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. My inbox flooded with messages from strangers, people who'd lost their own parents. People thanking me for standing up for them, for every moment they'd been told to get over it. It was strange, comforting, and surreal all at once. For the first time since my mom's funeral, I didn't feel invisible in my grief. Still, I kept silent. I didn't want fame, pity, or praise. I just wanted quiet, the kind my mother loved when she'd sit by the window, sipping her tea as the sun went down. And maybe that's why I didn't delete the video or fight its spread. I let it live, because in a world where cruelty gets buried, sometimes the truth deserves to echo. Months passed before I finally visited her grave again. The cemetery was quiet that morning, the kind of silence that feels alive, birds distant, wind moving through the trees like a whisper. I brought the wedding ring with me, the one I'd once thought would symbolize forever. It felt strange holding it again, heavy, meaningless now. I placed it at the base of her headstone, beside a small bouquet of lilies, and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. "I did it, Mom," I said softly. "I stood up for us." The words felt right, not proud, not vengeful, just honest. I told her about everything that had happened, about how people online turned my pain into headlines, how I'd tried to stay quiet through it all. I didn't do it to destroy her. I just wanted her to understand what she made me feel, even for a second. I sat there for a long time, watching the sunlight move across her name. For the first time since she died, I didn't cry. I just felt calm. The anger, the humiliation, the grief, it had all burned itself out. What remained wasn't bitterness, but peace. When I finally stood to leave, I glanced back at the ring one last time. It shimmered faintly in the grass, a reminder of what I lost and what I reclaimed. Love built on lies will always collapse, but respect, that lasts. Driving home, I rolled the window down and let the wind hit my face. I thought about how she used to tell me, kindness isn't weakness, it's just rare. She was right. I wasn't weak for loving or for hurting. I was human, and as the city faded in my rearview mirror, I realized something simple but powerful. She may have mocked my pain, but in the end, I turned it into something untouchable. Truth.